My guest today is a quarter of the Grammy, Dove, ACM, and CMA winning Country Music Hall of Fame and the Gospel Music Hall of Fame inductee and a member of the Grand Ole Opry and a 59-year member of the Oak Ridge Boys, the one and the only Duane Allen. Now, Duane had formal training in both operatic and quartet singing before becoming a member of the Oaks in 1966. He is also a member of the Texas Gospel Music Hall of Fame and has even written a book on the history of gospel music. Now, he received a bachelor's degree in music from Texas A&M, studying with Metropolitan Opera stars Richard Webb and William Abbott. And for his classical music degree, Duane concentrated on voice, piano, and composition. But in those 59 years, the Oaks have scored 12 gold, 3 platinum, 1 double platinum album, plus 1 double platinum single, and more than a dozen national number 1 singles, and over 30 top 10 hits, selling more than 41 million albums. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome one of the biggest gospel and country music legends of all time, again, the one and the only Duane Allen to the show. Welcome, Duane.
I'm looking around to see if that's me. Nice to see you, Doctor. We've talked many times on socials, and I know you've done many interviews, mainly with Joe, and may he rest in peace. I thank you for all the times that you've talked about the Oak Ridge Boys. You've always been really good to us. And thank you for that nice introduction. Uh, I did get prepared for what was lying ahead. I didn't know it would last this long. And I'm so thankful that I've had a 59-year career and I start my 60th year next month.
Well, I was kind of wondering when the big 60 with the Oaks was going to start, and what a ride it's been. And yeah, you and I have talked many times across social media. I know that you handle a lot of that social media by yourself. And I've had great conversations in the past, not only with Joe and William Lee, as well as Richard. And each and every interview with the Oaks, either together or separate, has always been an incredible honor and a lot of fun. But I want to kind of step back in time with you a bit because I was really amazed of your musical training. And so I understand that you had formal training in both operatic and quartet singing, as well as a degree in classical music. How did opera and classical music help you in your music career?
Well, my brother and sister both graduated from the same university I went to. One of them went in as a to study music and wanted to be a music missionary, and he wound up being a missionary to Africa, mainly to Zambia, and was there for 28 years. And then an older sister taught music in public schools, mainly in southern Texas, mainly to Spanish speaking children. And that was their goal, was to teach in public school and to do music for church work. My brother, who was a missionary, uh, when he was in Zambia, and all of these courses and chants and things that were going on that he would teach them uh, to sing for gospel messages. They didn't know anything about copyrights. So I taught him about copyrights over the phone and in the mail. We didn't have social sites then and computers. So it was mainly through the mail and when he would come home on a visit. I taught him how to copyright all of those songs and all of those chants that the Zambian people did. And when he left as his life's ministry gift, he gave all of those copyrights to the Zambesian people. And they are now their own copyrights. And he showed them how to do copyright so that they could ultimately make money out of their own copyrighted compositions that they wrote and mainly did as chants before he came. So I had an interesting thing that was a result of both those two people graduating from the same university. Now, the university that I went to was known for vocal work. If you look to Texas for what they're known for, uh, you look to North Texas State University for their band, and they are really known for their great band department. East Texas A&M at Commerce, Texas is known for its vocal department, and that's where I went. And every year or two, someone, usually from the Metropolitan Opera, would come from New York to East Texas uh, A&M and would work on their doctorate degree. Richard Webb was the first that I studied with. He was the lead tenor for the Metropolitan Opera. He was huge. He had played with the New York Giants football team. He was a lineman. He was huge. And when he sang, it was almost like watching that commercial where they could break glass. But he taught me how to project and get my voice not to just the front row, but to the back row. And his understudy was William Abbott. Well, William Abbott became the top tenor in the Metropolitan Opera when Richard Webb came to East Texas A&M. And when Richard Webb graduated with his doctorate, he went to London Philharmonic Orchestra and became their top tenor soloist. William Abbott then followed to East Texas A&M, and I got to study with him. So I got to study with the two top tenors from the Metropolitan Opera, and they were they were phenomenal. They taught me how to work a stage, how to work the front row in the middle and all the way in the back, and how to make a tone that would drive nails in the back wall but not hurt the people's ears in the front row. And uh, I always cherished that memory. I also studied with the old doctor of music vocal training in the department as well. And I studied fundamentals with him. And he taught me all of the basics, all of the fundamentals of how to do it right. Things like if you want to breathe right, you have to breathe from your diaphragm. And if you want to learn how to breathe right, look at a newborn baby. They haven't learned any bad habits yet. Lay them on the back. Lay that baby on the back and watch the diaphragm. The stomach raises, the diaphragm raises. They're breathing correctly. That's how you breathe. You breathe in your nose and blow out your mouth. It's that simple. A lot of people, when they sing and they have vocal problems, they just breathe from here up. They go like that, quick breath. But when you do that, you're not supporting it with your diaphragm. But he taught me to imagine breathing and singing like it was you had a rope. In Texas, that's important. You have ropes in Texas. You're all cowboys, you see. And imagine you got a rope and you tie a knot in it, and tie that to your diaphragm. You bring it up over the top of your head out to the audience, and you give them the other end. You tie a knot on it and let them have it in their hand, and they'll sing for you. So don't force the rope. You can't. Just let them have it. Don't make them take it. And once
Oh,
you learn that simple philosophy of breathing correctly and don't make them take it, let them have it, you'll never have voice problems.
I love that. You're giving us a great lesson, Dwayne. And it's and I think we can all hear it in today's singers that a lot of them probably need a little bit of vocal training, and just to hear the sound of the Oaks. I mean, every single member, even with Ben, the harmonies are just so pure even today, which I think harmony is a lost art, and we don't see a lot of harmony today in country music. Of course, there's the Oaks, there's Little Big Town, and so it's still alive. And I want to see more people do it. But you have given us an incredible voice lesson today, which I absolutely love. But I have to ask you because I reached back, and it was a story I didn't realize that in 1966 you replaced Ed Hill, who founded or co-founded the Prophets, but you resigned, but then became a member of the Oaks. Now, I heard that you believe that you were going to be drafted. Is that why you resigned from the Prophets?
I actually joined the Prophets right after I graduated from university. I graduated in mid-season because I wanted my teacher's certificate. So I taught for a semester. I taught grade school in the morning and I taught high school in the afternoon in Paris, Texas. And I got my teacher's degree so that back then that was in the 60s and I was looking at all the acts that were in the business. They weren't lasting that long. So I thought, I'm a good basketball player, not good enough to play in college or go pro, but I'm a good basketball player, and I study the game. I know the game. Uh, I might be able to go to some small college and coach basketball, and then teach music uh, as in some small college somewhere. If this music thing doesn't work out for me, maybe I can do that. So I wanted my teacher's certificate and degree for insurance, and I got it. Well, that kind of put me in line for uh, a job, and I worked at a radio station, KPLT in Paris, Texas, for a couple of 3 months because that's where I had a radio show working my way through college. I would go out, sell my own ads, and write my own script, and I did an hour a day, songs of inspiration, on KPLT in Paris, 6 days a week and 45 minutes on Sunday morning. And I would come in from college 30 miles away and I would service all my accounts, collect the money. And on Saturday, I would collect the money and write the script and stay there until I finished taping 7 shows. And then I would go back to college. Or I would sing in a group called the Southern Airs Quartet. Uh, Sometimes like at that particular time, I had 3 different jobs: KPLT, the Southern Airs Quartet, and I worked in the library where I checked out albums for people to listen to because I had to work my way through college. And I would sing on Sundays, and then I would head back to college. But I worked my way through school because my parents were rich, but they were rich in love, and they supported me uh, 100%, but they didn't have money to give to me, so I had to work for it.
So what's the story of you joining the Oaks in 66?
Uh, in 60, let me back up. In 65, on my birthday, I had the Prophets in Paris, Texas, on a concert on my birthday, April 29th. And once the concert was over, I followed them to Knoxville, Tennessee in my car. And I joined them that night on stage in Paris, Texas. Ed Hill had retired from the Prophets. He didn't retire from singing, but he retired from the Prophets, and I took his place, and I sang with them for a year. Now we get into 1966 in the early morning hours of 66 in the early part of the year. Joe Muscayo and I would come to Nashville to find songs. And I was listening to Ralph Emery, and his co host was Tex Ritter. on WSM. There was a wall speaker in the Noel Hotel. It only played WSM. I would lay there and imagine, oh man, someday I hope we'll make it and we'll get on the station there and they'll play us on the all night broadcast. Well, Marty Robbins was there that night. He would play everybody else's hits on piano and sing. And there was a young guy walked in the door, and he had just had a number one hit with the Hollywood Argyles called Alley Oop as the lead singer. His name was Dallas Frazier. And he said, I've got a new song I want to release to country radio. And he played Elvira. I heard it in 1966 while I was not yet a member of the Oak Ridge Boys, but a member of the Prophets in the early part of the year 1966. And I never forgot it. Now, we can come back to that story a little later.
Oh, yeah, we
As,
will.
as the year progressed, we worked a concert in Huntington, West Virginia. And as we were all pulling our records and sound equipment out of the bus, Herman Harper, the bass singer of the Oak Ridge Boys, came up to me and said, would you be interested in joining the Oak Ridge Boys? And I said, well, I might. I think the positions are filled. And he said, well, Smitty Gatlin is leaving. Wow, Smitty Gatlin, one of the greatest singers ever in the music industry. And he said he's leaving. He's going to take a church and become their group, like a group that sings in church but goes out and sings other places during the week in Fort Worth, Texas. And we need a lead singer. I said, well, my only problem is in 2 weeks, I have to go to the Army. I've been drafted. My number has come up. My deferments are out. So I have to go to the Army. So in 2 weeks, I left the Prophets and I got on a bus in Texas. I drove home. I sold everything I had, which is basically a car. And I got on a bus with another 50 people, I guess, and we rode 130 miles to Fort Worth, Texas, to the induction center with all of the other draftees. And I was sitting in a big room with probably 1,000 people that had come from all over Texas. And the sergeant was up there barking out orders. And he said, if the sergeant appears from that door over there and comes up to the stage, I'll turn over the stage to him and listen to his orders. So in just a few seconds, that sergeant appeared and they saluted each other. And the sergeant came up on stage. He said, if I call your name, go over and stand by that door and wait for me. And I'll tell you what to do next. So uh, he got out his list of paper on his legal pad. And my name starts with an A. I was the first name he called. They had just told us everybody in that whole room is going to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and directly to Vietnam. Well, I was already practically shaking, but I was in the Army already. I was already in. And so I'd passed 2 physicals, but they found something in the physical and they called all of those names. My name was on that list. And once they had called about 15 or 20 names, we all went into a little room. It was like an L shape in that room, like in church pews. And I was the first one to sit down on the corner there. And then that sergeant came in and he went into his little cubicle. And he said, if I call your name, come in here and shut the door. So I went in there and shut the door. And he said, is this your heart condition? I said, yes, I've had it probably since birth, but I noticed it when I was 3 years old. And he said, everybody here is going to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and directly to Vietnam. And knowing you've got a heart condition, you are a heart patient. And knowing that if something went wrong on the front line in battle, you could own the Army and we can't afford you. I said,
Wow.
well, I didn't know what to say because I knew they had such things as desk jobs and other places important, so to speak, with the Army. I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And I said, "I came here. I'm here to serve. In other words, put me at something else. I'm ready to serve my country." I'd left my job. I didn't have any money on me. I'd sold everything I had, and uh, he said, "Well," he said, "you are no longer my responsibility. We're going to have to reclassify you to 1Y, which is a medical discharge, and we will never call you again." And I said, "Well, what do I do now?" He said, "Well, you're no longer my responsibility." I said, "Well, can I make a call?" He said, "Yeah, the cubicle next door has got a phone and you can make one call." So I called my banker and I told him my situation. He said, "Well, I, do you have a job offering?" I said, "I've really got three jobs offered, but I don't know if they've been filled because they all know that I was going to the Army." And so I said, "But I need a car because I've got to get from Fort Worth to Nashville to find out if those jobs are available. I think I can probably get one of them at least." And he said, "Listen," I said, "I don't even have enough money to buy a taxi." He said, "Go to any car lot that you want and find a car that you want and tell that cab driver that you'll pay him when you get there. Tell the salesman to pay the cab driver, send him on his way, buy that car, write a counter check. I'll cover it when it comes through, and you call me when you get a job and we'll work out payments." How's that? So
Wow. We don't
I
have
thought,
banks like that anymore.
no. Well, I'd had a good record with them, and I knew the man. He was like one of the greatest guys I've ever met, and he was a friend until he left this world. And I hope he's smiling down on me today, talking about him. Beat him bankhead, but he was a wonderful man. And so I bought that car, a '66 white Buick Riviera, and I drove through Taylortown, Cunningham, Texas, got what little underwear and a few socks and things I had there at mom's house, mom and dad's house, told them goodbye. I drove all night to Nashville, Tennessee, and I walked into the second floor of the RCA building where the Oak Ridge Boys office is. Secretary had up the phone to her ear, and she said, "Oh my God." And she put the phone down. She said, "Here, come with me." And took my hand, walked me into the inner office, and there they were. They were all sitting there. And they said, "Wow, what are you doing here?" I said, "I came looking for a job." They said, "We thought you was in the Army." I said, "I got out." They said, "Let's go sing." And what I didn't know until later, but they had just told Pat Talent, the secretary, "Try to get Duane Allen one more time. And if you can't get him, we're going to disband the group." That's what they were there for that meeting.
She
We
was
went
on
over
the phone calling you as you walked
in,
in.
in Texas, to see if I'd gotten out of the Army because I told them there was a possibility I might get out. I'd bought a car, driven all night long, and walked in at that exact moment.
If that
And
wasn't the hand of God on you, I don't know
I,
what was.
I've always prayed for divine guidance, and it's not it didn't start there. It started as a young child. I always prayed for divine guidance because this is what I wanted to do, and that's a good example that people can picture in their own mind of actual things that God had His hand on. No other explanation even fits. We went over to a little church on Trinity Lane, sang two songs. They said, "Well, wait here. We need to go talk." So the other four went into side room, and I sat there and waited for a while. They came back about 15 minutes, said, "We'd like to offer you full partnership in the Oak Ridge Boys and full partnership in our publishing companies." And the publishing companies had four songs in it. And other than that, I accepted, and that was 59 years ago. Uh, I guess May 1st. Start 60. That
That
was in
that
1966.
I love stories like that, and I have always been a fan of the Oak Ridge Boys because the Oaks broke the mold of what a gospel quartet was supposed to be. Your sound was more pop. You wore your hair long. You wore bell bottom jeans. How did the promoters and the audiences react to the Oaks being a little bit different than everybody else?
Well, I think we probably kind of took it over the edge. We might have gone a little bit too far for the rest of them because there were two elements in gospel music at that time. The Imperials were also doing a similar thing. They were, it seems, going into the Christian or the Jesus people music at that time. It's now more praise and worship, but back then it was called Jesus music, and that kind of morphed into praise and worship that we know now. That some of the acts are huge, as big as some of the country or rock and roll stars. Some of these praise and worship acts are huge. Well, I didn't really want to leave Southern style gospel quartet music. I was the last one to consent to it. And my philosophy has always been you get the best music, the best songs you can find in the world, uh, and you follow the music. And I felt like if we recorded good enough songs, they couldn't deny us. And if they were that great, they would eventually cross over. And we tried a lot of different songs. But we would go to the country music disc jockey and he would look at our album and there were all the rest of the songs would be gospel. And we would be doing songs like Talk About the Good Times or Come On People, Smile on Your Brother, Everybody Get Together, Trying to Love Everybody Right Now, rhythm guitar behind Jesus, just we tried a lot of different songs. And I was getting a little frustrated. Well, we worked Las Vegas with Johnny Cash and we got blackballed for working Las Vegas. All we did was 4.5 gospel songs, 13 minutes opening the show with Johnny Cash got us blackballed from gospel music. We did 4 songs and a half of a song called I Know. And the next time we went there with Johnny Cash, we got 20 minutes. The next time we got 25. So working 13 minutes, getting 4.5 songs, working with Johnny Cash is okay because if that's what it takes to get on the stage, but it got us blackballed. And what we normally would get from basically the 5 or 6 major promoters in gospel music, we would normally get about 130 dates a year, and we would work 150 to 175. The others would be from independent promoters and cities who would have like a city day or festival or that sort of thing. But mainly those 5 or 6 promoters all over the United States controlled the business. We got 3 dates from those out of 130.
But
3 dates.
wasn't it Johnny Cash though that told all of you to hang in there
That's
and
right.
don't break up and keep going?
Yeah, it was on that first date at the Hilton in Las Vegas, in that room where Elvis shot out the television. In the same room, Johnny got us into a football huddle and stuck his head in the middle and he said, "I feel this magic." He said, "If you start breaking up, you start replacing a member, nobody will ever know what I feel right here. You got to stay together." And Johnny Cash did a lot of other things, but he took us to Vegas. He took us Circle Star Theater just out of San Francisco, put us on a lot of the fair dates he was working. We worked all over the country with Johnny, and he basically helped save our career. And then we got with Jim Halsey, and Roy Clark put us on a bunch of dates. and we started filling up our book, and we headlined at the Landmark Hotel in a main showroom there that Jim Halsey, our future manager, he was packaging all of the that showroom for the whole year on a show called Country Music USA. And every 3 weeks, they would change headliners, and they would usually have three supporting acts: a comedian, usually a banjo player, is what we used, and a girl singer. We had Pat Buttram opening the show for us of Gene Autry fame. And we had Skip Ewing playing banjo, and we had Linda Hart singing. And they would do about 15 minutes each, and then we would come home and do about 35 or 40 minutes. And we had to learn three songs that were country so that they could call us a country act. We didn't have Y'all Come Back Saloon yet. We were surviving. And so we learned Let Me Be There, Olivia Newton-John. We learned Silver Wings by
I know the song. I'm thinking of who the
Merle,
voice was.
Merle Haggard, and we learned Faded Love by Bob Wills, those three classic country songs. And so Jim Halsey could then advertise us as a country act. All the rest of our show was gospel. And when we went back for the next 3 week period, we worked there 13 weeks, I believe, the first year. And those were survival days. But we didn't have Y'all Come Back Saloon yet. We were still searching for that song and searching for a producer. And when we finally got a producer, every record label we would go to try to get a contract would say, we've already got a group in country music. We don't need another group. Well, Jim Fogelsong at ABC Dot, which became ultimately MCA, now UMG, but Jim Fogelsong said, well, maybe we've got room for another. And he got us Ron Chancey. And Ron Chancey, he was a hit. He knew how to find hit songs. He came to see us at a dinner theater in Oklahoma City, and he said, "I've got to get back to Nashville. All I need is 3 minutes of magic, and you guys will be a household word." Well, in the meantime, I talked with Governor Jimmy Davis, who is one of the few people in the world who's had country music hits and you said gospel music hits. And I
That's
said,
right.
Governor, tell me, how do you do it? How do you manage this? I said, the only people in our fan club that come from the gospel music people, only people coming out to our shows are really the gospel music people. He said, cut a country song. He said, what you're cutting are these songs that Jesus taught. They're gospel songs, but you're just not saying the name Jesus, and you're trying to get a country record out of it, but they look at your album and they're all gospel. And I said, well, we're still a gospel group, but we really want to have a country hit. He said, cut a country song. I said, well, we don't have anybody following us but gospel. He said, but if the country song hits, they will all claim you. And I said, well, what if it doesn't hit? He said, you know how that feels now. You know,
Wow. I
I,
remember Governor Jimmy Davis. He actually sent my wife and I a wedding gift when we got married. And it was one of the books he wrote. So yeah, I know who the governor is, but that is an incredible story.
yes. And he told us, he said, cut a country song. And if they like it, they'll all try to claim you. And that's exactly what happened. Those people that had criticized us, blackballed us, so to speak, they sometimes, in one time in Huntington, West Virginia, which was a place where I got offered the Oak Ridge Boys, they brought their whole church to our show. And then they wanted to come backstage and claim us as friends. And we let them. We smiled, and everything was cool. You know, I forgave them a long time ago because that's in my Christian faith. I don't feel like I don't want a burden on my shoulder of somebody else's problem. And so I forgave them a long time ago. And that opens up a place. And of course, that's in the Bible. if you carry it, it weights you down. And I want a place for love to bloom again in my own life. So that releases me from a burden that I carry that somebody else put on me. And I just, forgiveness is one of my theories that I teach for anybody that calls me that wants me to mentor them. I tell them you got to work out all the problems that you've got with some of these people that give you problems and forgive them. Ask God to forgive them, and you'll find that you're going to have all that burden lifted from you. And you can think clearly. You can think of what you need to do for your God and your relationship. And as you do that, then you won't have that burden on your shoulder to think about.
Oh, amen to that. I mean, because, if we walk around with unforgiveness, we're the ones walking around in a cage where there's no lock on the door.
Yeah, it just burden you, weights you down. And so some people would come up and say, I heard this group talking about you. What do you think about it? I don't think about it at all. I don't have an opinion on it. I forgave them a long time ago. That's in the past.
But
That's their problem.
oh, it is. It is. And I was curious because the changeover from gospel to country, and in a way, y'all never left gospel behind. It's
No.
just the nature of the business, but you made it in country. But wasn't it you that during that kind of that time of changeover, you were actually keeping an eye on all of the finances for the Oaks to make sure that y'all were still going to make it, correct?
Well, during the gray time between gospel and country, where we'd kind of been blackballed and we didn't have a hit yet in country, we were very much in debt. And we had three great publishing companies that were doing great. And I owned Superior Sound Studio, which is doing great. So those two companies underwrote the Oak Ridge Boys during a gray period of time and gave us some leeway so that we could keep going, keep everything above board until we could get a hit. And those particular companies kind of saved the day for the Oak Ridge Boys. And because both of those divisions of the Oak Ridge Boys, the publishing was owned by all the Oak Ridge Boys, and the Superior was owned by me, and we all contributed to keep the Oak Ridge Boys going. And we got through that period of time, and we paid off all the bills that we owed during that time. And all the people worked with us. There was a period of time we owed so much that if anybody had taken us to court to collect, they wouldn't have got anything, and we would have gone under, and nobody would have got anything. So I called them all and I said, "Look, uh, I can't pay you off right now, but we're going to work and we're going to work hard, and I'll send you $100 a month until it's paid off, and then I'm going to try to pay you off before the year's up. How's that?" And everybody worked with me, and we paid them all off. But once we got Y'all Come Back Saloon, I think the biggest date in our book was like probably $2,500 a date. Uh, we did the Tulsa Ranch Party, which is Halsey's ranch party. Jim Halsey, our manager, and everybody in the book was there, all the agents and Tonight Show, all the people that book all the television shows, the fairs, the auditorium, everybody that's anybody was there. And we did Y'all Come Back Saloon, and they were flooded the next morning with people trying to book us. And Jim closed the book, said, "You can't book the Oak Ridge Boys. Uh, you can't book them right now." So he waited like 3 weeks, and when they opened the book, we were getting $6,500 a night. So we went from $2,500 a night to 65. And every date, now this is in the 70s, every date after that, I could show you in our date book, uh, we were able to get another $2,000 to $2,500 a date with every hit. And we had had about 13 hits before we got Elvira. Well, when we'd paid off all of our debts and all of our bills, and we were rocking really good by the time Elvira came. And well, man, that bought us all a new house. And it's still buying us a new house and making those payments if we want to do repairs on them. I've had an electrician in my house all morning, but he'll be paid. And I just thank God that we've been at the right time in the right place, and we've had friends that have given us the right kind of advice uh, to do the right things uh, in our career. And I also want to thank God for this. We have two songs in our catalog that reach special needs children and people and adults with special needs like no other songs in our show. They are Thank God for Kids and Elvira. And we see them from the stage because they're usually brought down to the front rows. And we see them during the show. But during those two songs, those people come alive like no other show. I have films of it. I have a story of a young man who was not expected to live at 6 months, and his mother played Elvira in his room, and he started movement. And then after that, if they wanted him to do anything, they would have to play Elvira. So that was 81. This is 2025. That's 44 years ago. He's in a home in Indiana. If they want to change sheets, if they want him to eat breakfast or lunch or turn off the lights in his room, raise up the bed, move a chair in his room, they have to play Elvira. And I've tried to get him to one of our shows at least two or three different times, uh, but they were afraid that he might not be able to handle it. And I've even tried to take our bus by the home and maybe get him in a window, and they thought he might get too excited and not be able to handle it. So I can just tell the story, and thank God that we've been at a time and a place where Elvira was pitched to us, and I knew it the day it was pitched to us because I remembered it from 16 years ago, and I told you we'd come back to that.
Yeah,
And
I mean, because so that was so you heard Elvira,
in
and
the early
that
part of
was written by
66,
Dallas Frazier,
yeah,
1966, and then here it comes 1981,
15 years later,
and the song is still to this day as timeless as ever.
that's right. And
You
it
know,
still
because
reaches people today the
it
same way.
does. Now, because it was such a monster hit for the Oaks, both in country and even on the pop chart, was there added pressure to back up with another hit song? Because I remember Bobby Sue coming out after Elvira.
We did follow it with Bobby Sue, and Bobby Sue had the same kind of results, but it wasn't on that album. We didn't have anything on that album that was anywhere close to it. So Elvira came up, and we'd planned it for a country uh, release for the summer. We planned it for a summer song because we envisioned this was before seatbelts, okay? And we envisioned Mama singing those verses, okay? And the kids come up from the back, and in between Mom and Dad, they would sing the Giddy Up. And then the daddy would sing the Papa Mau Mau. And we envisioned America going on vacation in the summer and singing that song. So we timed the release where it would be at the near the top of the charts, maybe five or more or better, uh, during the summer months. Well, it was. And we timed that perfectly. And it was screaming number one all through the summer. What we didn't know was it was about to cross over. It stayed there at number one and just lingered in the top 10 for several more weeks. And then the record label came for a special meeting and gave us all Rolex watches that said 2 million or more sales on the back. And they said, we want to take this to rock and roll or top 40. and we got a bunch of stations that are wanting to play it. And I said, we'll go with it. Well, it started going up to the top of the chart. It stayed there for 16 more weeks. We didn't have anything for country music for that next 16 weeks. So I said, look at the title of the album. It's called Fancy Free. That's real country. Let's release that just to country radio, not rock and roll, just to country, and push that just to country radio and see what happened. Well, it went up to number one. And so while we had a number one song again in country music with Fancy Free, Elvira was going up to the top of the charts. And in Cashbox, at that time we had Record World, Cashbox, and Billboard. It got to number one. Billboard, it got to number 2 or 3. Record World, 2 or 3. But in pop, in rock and roll music, top 40. But we also had a country music number one song with Fancy Free while that was happening. So we were everywhere all the rest of that year. And so the record label said, you got to give us another follow to, because now top 40 are screaming for a follow. Well, we had all of our songs cut, and all at once from the mail, we got a song that Kathy Harris, who works with us, came into my office and said, listen to this song. And it was Bobby Sue. And it was written by a writer in town who heard his child talking about his Baba black sheep toy. And he wrote that song for Richard to sing that Baba Bobby Sue. And we followed with that. It got to number 6 in the top 40 chart, number one country. We also tried So Fine, which is an old rock and roll hit. That was one time to the well too many times. It didn't get to number one. It got to 16 or something like that.
Well, see, I love Fancy Free. I've
Mm-hmm.
always loved Sell Away because your voice is so smooth in that song. And it's probably one of my favorite Oak songs. And then there was Dream On.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these songs, I mean, are just they never age. Because I know that you never chose cheating songs, you never chose drinking songs. They were always songs that I guess we would say more uplifting in a way, but probably had much longer life.
Well, coming out of gospel music, I never really wanted to rub it in people's faces. Even with the Y'all Come Back Saloon, I had them to change 2 lines. There was a line in there called it Lifting High His Glass of Whiskey. Well, I didn't want to sing that line. I asked him to change that line, Lifting High His Glass in honor to the lady and the song. And the next line was, he paid his tithe, then walked that lonesome cowboy home. And I didn't want to rub the noses of church people with singing about a girl singer in a saloon, even though she sang in the choir on Sunday. That's what the story is. It's a choir singer singing in a saloon on Saturday night, uh, and the whole theme is based around that. But I didn't want tithe to be in there, so I asked them to change that line, and they said he paid his check, then walked that lonesome cowboy home. So even in our country songs, we've removed questionable words or lyrics that might not work. And there was a song that came to us, and everybody was so hot on it. Everybody in town thought this is going to be the biggest hit that the Oak Ridge Boys will ever have, and I was really scared of it. And we finally cut a track on it against my will, and the song title is "I'm 6 feet tall and handsome, and I'm burning in my jeans." I just didn't feel comfortable singing that. So I said, okay, I'll sing the line if you change that last line. And so they changed it. I'm 6 feet tall and handsome, and I'm still real strong and lean. Well, it didn't have much of a ring after that. So the ring was the part that makes you think of something dirty. And I didn't want to do that. So we wound and never made the album. It's in the can. And there are a lot of stories like that. But we worked hard to keep the reputation of the group what it is. And we've been in the news by a lot of different things. Some of it's true, some of it's not true. But the true part is that we've always worked to keep our reputation and the type of music that we present to the people. Something I always had the philosophy, you hear all these philosophies coming from me, but that's what I live on. And I probably at any one time, yesterday I had dinner at 4:30 yesterday with a group out of Arkansas. At any one time, I may be mentoring 12 to 15 people. And I just always had the philosophy I want people to feel better when they leave than they did when they came. And if people come up and say, well, why don't you do autographs? Well, wait a minute. What do you do autographs for? Do you do autographs because you want to really come out and see people? Or do you do autographs because you want them to buy more of your product? Well, the latter part's the truth. And if you go out and sign CDs or records or T-shirts or whatever, you will sell more. But I don't think like that. I think you need to charge as much as you can and not hold people up. But I think if you've got anything left after you walk off of my stage, you didn't leave enough on stage. You didn't work hard enough because they came and paid a great price in fuel, food, and ticket price, maybe motel to see us. You better leave it all on the stage. If you leave it all on the stage, you don't have nothing left to go sign autographs or go out and party or do anything else. Leave it all on the stage. Give me 110%. And then the people will come back. And you don't need those extra record sales or T-shirt sales out front. So we've never done that
Well,
in
yeah, because
45.
um, I saw the Oaks back in, well, yeah, 1981 when Elvira came out. If I even remember correctly, in Houston, Texas, I think T.G. Shepherd was one of the opening acts. Maybe Terry Gibbs. I'm not sure on that. And then I saw the Oaks maybe a couple of years ago here at Dosey Do's in that old little house with the stage in the middle. And y'all brought it. Y'all brought it. And I even, when I talked to Joe about it, he laughed because he remembers that little venue, and he said, "Yeah, I kept hitting our guitar player in the head with my elbow because the stage is so small."
Right.
And so, uh, but yeah, y'all give 110% to the audience, and we leave. We may leave with, and I know that we left with a T-shirt and whatever, but hey, I didn't need anybody to sign it, so.
Well, the thing is, there might be an opportunity to sign things if you see me on the street or in a motel or downtown or somewhere. I usually have a pen with me. If I don't, if you've got one, I'm honored to sign anything and humbled to do it. I love my career, and and I love the fact that someone would like to have a souvenir. Uh, sure, I'll sign it. I'll be glad to. Everybody in this group would. But you're talking about when you're paid to do something, how well do you do it? And I think you should do it to the best of your ability plus another 10%.
I love
And
it.
if you do that, people will come back because you gave them more than what they expected. They'll talk about that extra 10%. And when they talk about the extra 10%, they'll say, you got to go with me the next time to see them. And they'll bring somebody with them. That philosophy has worked for us. And I've been here 59 years, and they were going before I came here. I was a fan of the group before I joined. There was a lot of that philosophy already happening. But that's always been the philosophy of the Oak Ridge Boys since I've been here, that you give 110%. And I tell you how it works. We were in Texas early in the year, and the sap in the tree turned warm, and the sap in the tree came down or goes up or whatever it does when that happens early, and then it turned cold again. Well, that causes a reaction in the tree, and it puts off all these spores or things that get into the air. We had 13 people in our band and crew and vocalists that were in the clinic taking antibiotics. And I lost my voice. I mean, it just went totally. The antibiotics were too heavy for me, and it just took that, whatever that funk is you get out of the trees when they turn like that. Uh, it took my voice, and I could not sing for 2 weeks, but I never missed a show. I stood up on my microphone and I mouthed 2 weeks of show. You could have called me Millie Vanilli because I was up there every night enjoying the show, contributing to the show. Joe took all my leads. Scotty Simpson in our bass guitar band, uh, he took all my harmony parts. We never missed a lick. We never even told the people that I was sick. Because I don't, that's another philosophy of mine. I don't believe people come and to see you at a show sick. I think they go to a hospital to see sick people and they don't pay anything. You might have to pay to get out, but uh, I just think that when they come to see you, they want to see you at your best. If you give your best, no matter if it's not singing a note, if I went through all the motions and gave them everything I had, that's all I got. That's my best, every bit of it. We were in New Braunfels, Texas after a show, and they would rush me off stage right to the bus so that I wouldn't get caught because I couldn't make a sound and I couldn't talk to anybody. It was just a whisper and many writing notes. So a road manager would rush me to the bus. And so this one disc jockey friend of mine I'd known for years, always talked to him, knew his whole family. He knew our last song, so he ran out the side before the song got over, and he was coming around the building and saw me getting into the bus, and he yelled, "Hey, Duane!" And I knew who it was, so I stopped my motion to come over to the bus, and he said, "Man, I've seen y'all a dozen times," or whatever he said there, and he said, "That's the best you have ever sounded." I didn't quite know how to take that because I had not sung a note, one note, but the Oak Ridge Boys had sung and done their best. And that's why I'm one of the Oak Ridge Boys. And that's what I've always wanted to be. I never wanted to be it. I never had that desire to be it. I've always wanted to be one of the. And you can make it in this business if you can't even make a note. If you're one of the, and that group can continue without you if you've got a good organization. We have great people in our organization.
You do, you do. Now, what is your fondest memory of Joe Bonsall?
Joe Bond's the best friend I ever had. And in our corporation, sometimes we need decisions, we need votes. A good example is I could call Joe and I said, "Joe, I need your vote." He'd say, "You got it. Now tell me what you need, what you're talking about." He'd give me his vote first. He wouldn't even ask me what it was about until he'd already given me his vote. Sometimes there might be a problem in our organization with something that pertained to the crew or the buses or the van, or I'd say, "We've got this problem, might be personal, but I'm working on dates 2 years from now, and I'm working on a contract. I'm also listening to a whole bunch of songs. Can you take care of this for us? Before the night would fall, he would call me, problem solved, no problem, not a problem at all. That's the kind of person he was. He was not just my right hand man, he was my partner and my friend for life. And I call his wife usually every week or more, once or more. And I was Joe's best man, and my wife was her bridesmaid. And we were very tight and still are. And she's still a part of our organization. And I love him forever, and I love her forever.
I love that. Now I know, Duane, that it's been almost a year since you lost Nora Lee, and she had her own amazing singing career with the Carol Lee Singers.
Right.
Even my brother-in-law, Delway, who has done, my gosh, probably 15, 20 albums. I remember that he had had the Carol Lee Singers on one of his albums. So I know Nora and the rest of them are extremely talented, but how did you two meet?
At a backup session with the Carol Lee. We were doing some of these budget albums. You used to see where the lead singer of the session would sing like Hank Williams Jr. or Bobby Bear or somebody like that, and you'd have backup singers, and you would do these albums you see in a cheap store for 89 cents or whatever. Well, they would hire backup singers and pay us pretty good money. And on one particular set of recordings, Carol Lee called me and asked me if I knew some female that could sing with us, and I said, "Yeah, I can get Nora Lee," and we were dating. And so that was one of our first dates, was to do a backup session together with a lady that she would later work with for, well, she worked the Opry for 42 years as a regular, and then, but she had worked quite a few years before that filling in. But 42 years of every week, several shows a week. And she kept doing backup sessions. I saw Rhonda Vincent last night on a video, and I remember when Rhonda came to town and did her first album, Nora Lee did backup on that. That was probably 50 years ago. And she did a lot of backup on a lot of albums, but she got to back up some of the biggest stars from Garth to Roy Acuff, so on the Opry. And that was a great experience. She loved it, and I love the Opry. And I'm looking forward to the 100-year birthday program that's we're getting together for a live show on the 10th, on the 19th. I think that's on. I forget the network it's on, but I won't say that because I don't know. Uh, but it'll be a live network show on the 19th, and we'll all be there.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. And I have to ask, what is the most endearing quality that you loved about your Nora Lee?
Well, she was everything that you saw, beautiful, and she was that way inside. And she was the ultimate shopper, but she didn't shop for herself. She gave most everything away. If you were to go to a Grand Ole Opry any night of the week and walk up to her and say, "That's a beautiful vest you got on. I just love that." Next week, when she shows up, there would be a gift wrap, and it would either be that vest or one just like it in that person's size, and it would be a gift. And she didn't order one facial makeup. I have a vision of one about that size. I think she paid $80 each for it, and they came in boxes of 24, and she gave them away to everybody. When she was in the hospital this time of the year last year, there was a special lip balm she loved. And I think my son D ordered 2 orders of that, which were usually 24 or 36, while she was in the hospital because she gave everybody in the hospital some of her lip balm. everybody. They would come in and say, "What is that? That smells great." Next day they would have one, and we ran out. She was in and out of the hospital for 3 months, and but everybody there would, if they came in and said anything about it, they had one the next day, or if it was over on the table, go get that for her. And she gave away things, and she was the most giving person I've ever met in my life, and I think she gave away every penny she ever made on the Grand Ole Opry and all of her backup sessions. And thankfully, we've had a career uh, that we had a little extra money, so I never minded any of that. I knew what she was doing, but on any particular day, today, I might open up my mail and have as many as maybe 6 charity organizations like Salvation Army or Bridge Ministry or United Way, uh, or an orphan's home up in South Dakota, thanking us for our gift. Uh, any particular day, there might be anywhere from a handful to just 2 or 3, but the next day I might have another handful. And she gave to everybody and supported all of the charitable causes that were in our community. In fact, there's a bench with her name on it in our park in Hendersonville because she got tired of seeing the big Christmas tree, the big green tree in our park with no Christmas lights on it. So she called the city and asked if she could decorate the Christmas tree. She put thousands of dollars in that Christmas tree and lit up the park. Well, the city started putting money into the Christmas lighting, and now our city's got a whole bunch of Christmas lights. But Norlie started that. She bought the first Christmas lights, and she went around to other people and got them to contribute, put some lights on some more trees down there, and made the park beautiful the very first year. Well, last year in December, they put a park bench there permanently, and it's got her name on it, and it's right by the Christmas tree there. So she did a lot of stuff on her own that I had nothing to do with, and uh, but her name will live on there forever as well. And
That
quite a
is that is absolutely beautiful, Dwayne. And like they said, if you build it, they will come. And she stepped forward, and now the park is beautiful for thousands of people to enjoy each and every year. And even last year, I was, I was so overjoyed when I saw you and Richard and William Lee walk on stage at the CMAs last year.
right.
Are there any of the modern day country acts that you and the rest of the boys would love to collaborate with?
Oh, there probably are. I haven't thought about it. The steel guitarist and utility man for Travis Tritt played on our last album, and while he was in the parking lot, he uh, he was writing a song. He couldn't finish it, so he walked in to the studio and he was singing this song, and it caught all of our attention. There was 3 of us there: him, David Cobb, and me. And so he kept singing over part of it, and it just kind of became infectious. And before you know it, David Cobb and I threw in lines, and our name is on it as co-writers of the first song of our new album. First song that I've been a part of writing for quite some time. I used to write a lot, but I also wanted to build a publishing company, and I did. And I wound up giving my ideas to a lot of the writers, and I got satisfaction from that too. That's what I wanted to do. But I quit writing. And I think that writing urge is still there because I'm still a song man. I think the most important thing that can ever happen in one's career is 3 minutes long, 3 minutes of magic. Because you cut the best songs that you can cut. Don't cut favors. Don't cut it just cause you wrote it. Cut it because it's a great song. Don't pay anybody a favor on your album. That's your whole life. That's after your life. After you're gone, you're still paying somebody a favor. Wait just a minute. You cut the best songs, period. All of them, as if they were going to be the next big single. And if it's not that good, don't do it because it's your career.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And ladies and gentlemen, I have had the most incredible honor to interview each of the Oak Ridge Boys separately, beginning with the late Joe Bonsall. But each one has their own distinct voice in the group, but the mix of those iconic voices have forever added to the history of not only gospel music, but country music as well. Now, harmony could be a lost art, but it's those like the Oak Ridge Boys, Little Big Town, and others are keeping that art alive. But each of the Oaks always loves something far more important than music, and that's Jesus. And their heavenly harmony is still being sung from stages across the country. Now, you be sure to get their new album, Mama's Boys. Go to
Oh,
oakridgeboys.com and check out their touring schedule, as I will be in my seat when they come to town. And Duane, I want to thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation today. And I guess we're going to have to get Ben James on the show.
Ben loves to talk. You know, Ben's hero was Joe. And we worked over a year, almost a year and a half with Ben now. We still have yet to rehearse with him. He knows every song that Joe ever recorded. His dad is a preacher, and his dad wouldn't let him listen to anybody but us and the Statler brothers. So he knows everything that Joe has ever recorded, all the harmony parts. His voice is completely different. And we've told him, look, Joe's already had a hit on these songs that we ask you to sing. So we're not asking you to sing them like Joe. Joe has already gone on to his new home. He will never sing them again. He's had hits with them. They are proven hits. Now you sing them like you interpret them. You sing them with your voice. You put your own thing on these songs and sing them the way you feel them from your heart and reinvent them as your own now because they're already hits. Joe will never sing them again, but it's up to you to keep that song going. And when you sing with us, sing with that Oak Ridge Boys style harmony. And he's such a good vocalist that he knows how to fill the gap that makes the Oak Ridge Boys sound. So in the first sound check that we did, I went out front with my microphone and we were doing a sound check just to get our balances with Ben. And I promise you, he knows how to fill the gap that makes the Oak Ridge Boys sound. He can position the tones in his voice that he's that good. And he's really fun to work with. He's only 29 years old. That brings our average age way down. So we're going to keep working as long as we can, Doc.
Well, I love it, Duane. Well, give my best to Ben, to William Lee, and Richard, and a much more success to you and the Oaks in the coming year. I know that I'm going to be looking at your touring schedule, so when you come to town, I am going to be in my seat, and I'm going to be bringing more people with me. And so, ladies and gentlemen, head over to oakridgeboys.com for everything the Oaks. And hey, I want to thank all of you for watching. Keep Jesus first, and I'll see you next time.